Hey, Chris Manning here, Locked On Cavs podcast, your daily look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. Coming up on today's show, we are going to talk about the Cavs win over the Nuggets, another win for the Cavs in the Mile High City, their second win in a row, second win over a good NBA team. So we'll dive into that. We'll dive into how Kevin Love has been playing pretty well and was one of the key figures in that win over the Nuggets. And we're going to talk about the return of Darius Garland after he missed 2 games with an ankle injury. That is all coming up today on Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com and tell them that Locked On sent you because Rock Auto is great and you should support them for supporting us.
Stuck the landing there, guy.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Look, little technical snafu. We made it
so
through.
On brand, it hurts.
I was clicking the thing. It just didn't happen. I feel 90, but I'm Chris Manning. He's Evan Dammerall. Evan, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. Well rested after a late night with the Cleveland Cavaliers taking on the Denver Nuggets. I am not physically prepared for them to take on the Clippers at 10:30 Wednesday, but we'll be doing a live show to preview that later. We're a little later, but Chris and I are old folks. I went to bed after media availability around 1-ish or so. Chris was conked out because he worked all day today. So we're doing this on a Tuesday afternoon, but we're here to talk some Cavs Nuggets. Before we get started about the Clevelands, this is probably, it's early in the season, but I'd say this is like one of their staple wins, or trademark wins, or something that JB Bickerstaff could have put a feather in his cap for. Chris, how are you?
I'm good. If someone would like to pay me lots of money to be able to stay up late to write about the Cavs, I'm extremely available. Just give me some health insurance and like some certain amount of money, and let's get the business going. Also, as a programming note, again, as Evan noted, we'll be doing a live show on our YouTube channel, and then I'll be, if you want even more of me, I'll be on with friend of the program, Chico, Mike Borman from 92.3 at 9:20 on 92.3 The Fan. Listen to that on Odyssey or on your radio dial. Talking some Cavs with my guy, Chico. Evan, let's get into this game. Cavs win 99-87.
Yes,
Not
sir.
the kind of game I expected the Cavs to win. They win the fourth quarter by 7 points, 24-17 against a Denver team that hasn't quite found its full gear yet. This is a Denver team that, Michael Porter Jr. hasn't quite played well yet. 14 to 14 from the field for him. Jokic did Jokic things at 24-19. Cavs led by 22 off the bench from Kevin Love on 13 shots, including 5 free throws. He had 6 boards as well. 21-16 for Jared Allen. 12 and 4 in a absolute poster dunk from Lowry Markkanen. Evan Mobley had not as big of a game as he did maybe against Atlanta, but had 10 and 8 to go with 2 assists and was 4 of 8 from the field. Colin Sexton 14 on 4 of 11 shooting, and Darius Garland in his return 31 minutes, 9.7 assists against 3 turnovers, 3 rebounds, and 4 of 9 from the field, and 1 of 3 from 3. Cavs in this one, offensive rating of 101.2, defensive rating of 89, shot 46.3% from the field, 28% from 3, 16 of 20 from the line. They doubled, and let's just dive into the stat of that now, because this is where I was going to go. They doubled up Denver on the free throw line. 16 free throws makes for the Cavs on 20 attempts, and then Denver was 8 of 12 from the free throw line. So to me, that was the stat of the night. I'm just going to get that out of the way because it was just kind of there. But Evan, takeaways from this game, and you have a stat of the night that popped to you.
Well, I think your stat of the night pick is a really good one because it speaks volumes about how good this Cavs team is at playing defense without fouling. I think we're certainly going to have to talk about Jared Allen during this segment because he was just incredible. And my stat of the night pick is honestly Jared Allen being 10 of 11 from the floor. It's a shame that he wasn't perfect from the floor, but he has only missed, I think, 3 or 4 baskets in total this year. Granted, we're still in a very young season, but the efficiency and the accuracy at the rim is no joke. I know it was a really hype stat of his coming out of Brooklyn, but like definitely got to note that. But like it's just a little sub stat of the night. Evan Mobley has recorded a block in every single one of Cleveland's games so far, and I think that's definitely something worth to keep an eye on because he's really good at defending without fouling too. And yeah, man, that's just where I'm at. But yeah, you had a good pick. Like the Cavs played the Cavs outworked the Nuggets from wire to wire. That was my biggest takeaway from this game. Like from the opening tip, I think like JB Bickerstaff said that Lowry Markkanen dunk where he posterized Nikola Jokic kind of set the tone and the precedent for the game. I think Ricky Rubio and Facundo Campazzo, I probably just butchered his first name, but oh well, they had a little bit of a dust up, and JB Bickerstaff noted that the team could have like backed away, but instead they were in Ricky's corner and they were fighting with him. And he said that's the best part of team building. Like this was a good win for the Cavs. Like I said at the top before we jumped into this, like this could be like one of the statement wins for JB Bickerstaff's tenure as a head coach of the Cavs. Like this is just a very good win against a very good Denver team. Granted, there's no Jamal Murray, so take it with a grain of salt. But like, I mean, Nikola Jokic was incredible. He is as advertised, but they contain Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon continues to disappoint with the Nuggets, I feel. But yeah, no,
I mean,
Jeff.
it's
Good to see Uncle Jeff too.
Yeah, I mean it's early. Like Denver is going to be a team that I think for me, if Murray's healthy, I think they're my favorite team in the Western Conference this year. I think Jokic is obviously incredible. I mean they're just not at their peak level, but that doesn't take away from the Cavs. Went on the road in a hard place to play and won.
They're a mile off the ground. Did you know that?
Okay, Dad. They're still like I'm still like. Did you play LA Noir?
Yeah, I did.
So you know when like you hit doubt, like I'm just hitting doubt like 900 times when like I'm looking at the starting lineup still because I still am just like I don't know about this, but it helped. Like this is a game where like it could have been busted wide open and it wasn't. I want to see if that happens against the Clippers, if that happens against the Lakers, Phoenix.
Yeah.
If Mikal Bridges is shifty off ball and stuff, we'll kind of see where that goes. But Evan, MVP of the night. We're gonna do a whole segment on Kevin Love up next. But he's my MVP pick, and that's all I want to say because we're going to give him some serious flowers in the next segment.
Yeah, it's well deserved. He was my MVP pick. If you watch the Locked On Now, or if it was on Locked On NBA, like Kevin Love has sneakily been so good coming off the bench for the Cavs. Like I thought there might have been a bit of an adjustment period. Maybe he would have been frustrated with the fact that he is a multi-time All-Star, former NBA champion. He has only come off the bench like 5 times in his career in like the last several years. Like in most of those games were in the NBA Finals, and he was dealing with a concussion. So like coming off the bench is a pretty foreign thing for him as of late. But 22 points on 8 of 13 shooting. He said after the game, like, listen, I'm not going to shoot the ball this well every night, but some nights you just have it and you just got to roll with it. But he's been really effective. And I think him being so positive about the situation in Cleveland on the court and off the court, like I've noted this when I'm at games sitting in the press box. I see him in Larry Markkanen's ear or in Ebley's ear hyping them up or like talking to Jared Allen. He talked about how Jared Allen was absolutely incredible. That's my MVP pick, by the way. It's Jared Allen because Jared Allen was absolutely incredible, but I'll elaborate on that in a second. But like Kevin's being a real good vibes guy right now, and that's something I kind of hoped he was always
Save
really.
it.
I know.
Go to Jared Allen. Save it.
Go to Jared Allen. Jared Allen was incredible because JB Bickerstaff matched him minute for minute with Nikola Jokic throughout the game. He played almost 37 minutes last night, but every time Jokic was on the floor, Allen was there with him. Of course, Jokic had a monster game, 24-19, but Jared Allen had 21-16. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at, and he was really, really good last night, and I was impressed with the performance, and I think he was key, not only on defending Jokic, but he'd be switching out on Michael Porter Jr., or be forced on Aaron Gordon, and he defended them well as well, too. Like, Jared Allen, and I think it speaks volumes about how good of a player he is when JB Bickerstaff said, it's like, there is no player I have more trust in than Jared Allen because he knows Jared Allen isn't looking to play for himself. He's looking to play for the team. Like, you kind of get that impression where he's like, he doesn't ask for plays to be called for him. He's just always available and he's always ready and he wants to maximize the rest of his teammates. And I think having that type of player who's like incredibly mature for his age, incredibly well-spoken, like when Jared Allen speaks, like I listen closely because he says the right thing. Like he doesn't beat around the bush about it or doesn't give blasé answers, but
Jared he says about great. 7 words and gets his point out and he moves on. He's very succinct in how he speaks.
Exactly. And that's something I appreciate. And like him and like Kevin Love's brutal honesty and like dry humor last night was a good game. But yeah, no, Jared Allen's my MVP pick. Let's keep it big in Cleveland. And to your point about the lineup stuff, like you said, the doubt button. JB said they're going to reevaluate things at about after 10 games of like tangible data to say like, okay, what's working, what isn't working, what do we need to change up? So maybe we see Larry Markkinen shifted to the bench and Isaac Okoro bumped into the starting lineup. Who knows?
And also what you just heard there is after 10 games, we're going to do a pod just on that starting lineup and look at the data and do the same thing and go through that exercise, and we'll have some fun with it. And Justin Warren will probably tweet misleading statistics at us. But anyway, Evan, MVP of the night, or sorry, play of the night, excuse me.
Well, I think there's
play of the night.
One obvious pick, and then there's one that I really like.
I have a very Chris Manning pick, that I'll do, but I want you to go first.
Well, mine was when Larry Markkinen was cutting along the baseline, and it was like I think it was either Darius Garland to Evan Mobley, and Evan Mobley's just so gosh dang good at passing from the elbow. Again, MVP potential in a few years here, folks, but like the passing is something I didn't expect, and he threw up a lob to Markkinen, and it looked so effortless and so fluid, and it didn't feel clunky. And I'm just still thinking like you, like man, I really want to see Kevin Love and Evan Mobley in a pick and roll, but that's my play of the night pick. Like that was just a really fun play, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, this is another tone setter for the Cavs, and Larry Markkinen is actually using his size for once, so win-win.
I think Markkinen's poster is an obvious pick. But my pick, Isaac Okoro,
of course,
fourth quarter, 9:44-ish left to play. He's 1-on-1 against Austin Rivers, and he gobbled him up twice in a row.
Yeah, the back-to-back blocks is a good play. That's a really good pick.
My good Lord, that man is just like a Venus flytrap of a defender.
He must have saw what Dave Zavak tweeted about him, saying that he's averaging 9 points and 1 rebound and nothing else.
David is a curmudgeon and being an absolute loser, but Isaac Okoro. I'm just throwing barbs today. I don't really care anymore. I really just
Chris Good Vibes Manning has left the building, and Evan Dammerall's energy has taken his place.
Chris Good Vibes Manning is here. I'm just saying, like, Isaac Okoro is really good, and if you don't think he's really good, and if you don't think his defense in particular is really good, the offense is obviously a work in progress. His defense is incredible, and if you are just downplaying that, I think you're absolutely out of your goddamn cord. Also, just like I'm watching that play back, and like when him and Mobley are on the same side of the court, and like you're attacking that's like really hard. That's just like in my opinion, like extremely hard for offenses to navigate. And I don't envy teams having to like find appropriate ways to dive through that. But that's going to be it for our looking at that. Again, Cavs win. Go to LA for 2 games. Wednesday against the Clippers. Friday against the Lakers. Up next, again, we'll be previewing the Clippers game on our live show, and we'll take your questions later this evening. And Evan, we got a bill to pay though, and I think you're going to tell everyone about our friends at DirecTV.
Yeah. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live. Another lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for that good. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before so that you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
All right, Evan, let's go to Kevin Love. So I want to note this before we kind of get too deep into this. His numbers so far this year, if you look at like his just raw numbers on a per game basis, they're not what you would call good, right? Like if you look at his overall numbers for the year, 11 points per game.
But they're not bad either.
Well, he's shooting 41.2% from the field, which isn't good. And he's shooting 16.7% from 3, which is also not good. Rebounding 6.5 rebounds a game. He's playing 21.5 minutes a game, which will be the lowest number of his career by far, and the lowest number since last year, which kind of doesn't totally count, but also since his rookie year, which is also the last year that he was a regular bench player. So that's kind of where Kevin Love. Well, the second year he was kind of on the bench guy. First year of his career. First year was the year he played 25.3, and this is kind of the close to that if he ends up playing, the full season in Cleveland and all that stuff. So I just want to ask you. I think we both think he's playing well. I think the Denver game was probably his best game, but I think he's been engaged enough on defense. I think I think for me, the key is that he's a different flavor than Markkinen. They, in theory, provide sort of the same stuff because they both are there to space. But I think Love has more in his toolkit what have you made of Kevin Love so far?
I think he does have a lot more in his toolkit. I think in terms of rebounding, Kevin Love and Larry Markkinen in theory are the same player, like you said, but Kevin Love kind of plays to his size, what Larry Markkinen doesn't. Like Kevin Love has no problem posting up a smaller player and kind of banging them down low. Kevin Love has no problem
The
trying to battle for
PJ
rebounds.
the PJ Dozier and one he had against Denver
Yeah.
was a clear example of that.
Like you don't see Larry Markkinen doing that. And also I keep stressing this. Defenses still respect the fact that Kevin Love is a good 3-point shooter, and defenses don't necessarily respect that. Like there's a defender in front of Larry Markkinen, like when he's floating around on the perimeter, but like Kevin Love, like that defender has like, and maybe a secondary defender has Kevin Love's attention as well. Like their eyes are focused on Kevin Love because he possesses it's an overblown term, but it's an accurate one, 3-point gravity. Kevin Love could kill you from three if you're not covering him or not making sure you keep an eye on him. And just the theoretical spacing he provides makes my life a hell of a lot easier for players like Evan Mobley, Colin Sexton, Darius Garland, what have you. And again, like you said, if he doesn't finish the season with Cleveland, this is a good way to leap into my point. Like he's being a good vibes guy. And I think that's the most refreshing thing because the last few seasons have definitely been frustrating for Love. There's a lot of people who wanted him gone yesterday. I still think in my heart of hearts, the Cavs won't trade him, but I think he'll warm up to an idea of a buyout. And then if he leaves on a good note, I think it's just a win for the organization too, because this is the last piece of this championship squad. He left on good terms and now he'll go play for Brooklyn, maybe not Portland because they're a bit of a mess right now. Los Angeles, either the Clippers or the Lakers, has a nice niche bench role like he does with Cleveland, provides some shooting, maybe some playmaking. And that's the other thing, the playmaking Kevin Love has as well. Like that's still such a vital skill set for him to have too. Like it's been fun, man. It's just been fun kind of watch this like revival of Kevin Love. I hope there isn't a blow up at some point, but fingers crossed he just kind of keeps mellow and just kind of enjoys the journey before they reach the destination together, which I still feel like his days in Cleveland are numbered, but we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, I look at this and I think it's beyond the rebounding, and I think beyond sort of the ability to post up some guards and at least do that, the visual of doing that effectively, even if he's not making them, but the clip you might expect or want him to, and he hasn't for a while. It's not like a this year development. Like in the last couple of years, the Kevin Love post up just isn't as effective as it was as perhaps his apex. It's just kind of been a thing since he came to the Cavs and probably since he got a little bit smaller. It's just a tangible trade off that he made to kind of be more svelte. But I think the other thing is that he's a passing threat that I think I kind of like, because I don't think Markkinen like has a little bit of like athleticism. Obviously has athleticism, like that dunk he had against Denver is something that Kevin Love just doesn't have. Kevin Love is not going to run the floor and like yam on someone's head. That's just not what he's going to do. If he's in transition, he's probably trailing for a 3-pointer. Someone, Darius Garland, whomever, Ricky is going to like find him. But what Kevin can do is he can, pass to a cutter. He can run some kind of crafty two-man action, particularly with Rubio. That's something you see them just kind of instinctually do. I don't think that's a call. I think they're just kind of flowing through some of that stuff on the second unit at times. I think that's where his value is kind of coming, and it gives you another bit of dynamicism. And I kind of want to see, once we get to that 10-game barometer, maybe even that 8-game barometer, I kind of want to see more of him in Mobley, because I think there's just some really intriguing stuff you could do there. I mentioned the other night, I want to see a Mobley Kevin Love pick and pop. I just kind of want to see what that would look like. I would want to even see the inverse where Kevin like maybe initiates it and it's like real tight around the elbow and you just kind of see kind of weird stuff you could do, because Kevin can make that pass. He's very capable of it. And I think the attitude, I think the buy-in has been good so far. We need to see if it's going to persist. We need to see if it's going to, if he's going to ultimately like take some games off and that kind of stuff. It obviously didn't happen over the weekend with a back-to-back. And but like this Kevin Love that we're seeing 20 minutes a night, spacing, kind of playing in his role, sometimes playing deep into the fourth quarter, depending on how the game flow is kind of going. This is the Kevin Love the Cavs can use. And obviously, like, I think, in a vacuum, you would still probably like to not have the contract on the books. You would still not like to have all of you'd probably like to go spend the money elsewhere. But if you have this reality, I think this has been the best case scenario for it so far, even if statistically, like, I don't think his numbers are exactly like the 3-point shooting, for instance. Like if Kevin Love shoots 16% from 3 all year, like that's really bad. But if he kind of levels that out, he gets going, he's making 2.5, 3 a game in his minutes, or like if he's taking 3 a game in 21 minutes and he's making 1.5, or if he can get up to 4 a game and is making like close to 2 a game, that to me is a good outcome. The other thing about it is like he's The volume that he can sometimes have is can come and go a little bit. It can be kind of up and down. Like he's never made more on average than like 2.6, I think, in a season per game. So he's never gonna like hit like 7, 8, 9 in his minutes. Like it's not gonna get him up like that. But you could get him taking like 4 or 5, I think, in his minutes, and I don't think that's a bad utility for him.
No, not at all. I think he's carving out a very useful niche role for him. Hopefully, by all accounts, he said his Achilles and his calf are fully healthy. As long as those are healthy, I think he'll be okay.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
and
people can.
this is the 20-minute a game thing to me. This is like your mid 30s. You can't play. Like, I think there's a thing that like the standard of athlete where like the guys that can play all these minutes into their early 30s, LeBron, is kind of being the prime example. Like those are anomalies. Like guys,
Westbrook.
it's well, but even Russ has had like injury issues. LeBron has obviously had a couple as he's gotten to his later 30s, but like once guys in any sport, particularly sports where you're moving like this, whether it's the NBA, whether it's soccer, whether like it's
Football.
Yeah, football obviously, but like baseball, like guys will move in from playing outfield to playing like first base or DHing. Like your
The
body
Jim
just
Thome approach.
yeah, your body just does not move in the same way, and like sometimes you can be more effective in less minutes, fewer appearances, and like that can be a strategy point. And I think Kevin so far has like been like this is a case of like maybe you play a guy less minutes and you can kind of get more out of him at this point in his career, even if the price tag would expect you to pay much more.
Oh yeah, I mean he's the highest paid bench player in the league because John Wall ain't coming back for the Rockets this year. So
John Wall, highest paid coach in the NBA.
It's not inaccurate, no. Yeah, man, it's interesting to see what will happen next. I hope the good vibes continue. I think the added luxury of like if Kevin Love doesn't have it on a certain night, I think it's pretty easy for JB Bickerstaff to pull the hook and just like play Dean Wade or somebody else like the minutes that Kevin may get, or maybe Jetty Osman gets more minutes, or you just kind of sprinkle it out in the rotation. Maybe you lean heavily more on Larry Markin as well. Like again, when they drafted Mobley and traded for Markin, it became crystal clear probably to Kevin Love that he is firmly no longer in the Cavs' future plans. And they just kind of get the most of what they have with them. And I don't know, man. It's just kind of nice to see that, like, even like some of his biggest critics are like warming up to the idea that he is just a positive impact player. And I hope I can see him play on a contender before the season's end, because this Cavs team's fun now, but I think once they finally hit some adversity, it's going to get bumpy for a little bit. It's a good chance it happens Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, because like LA, and then Phoenix immediately after the Lakers is a pretty tough stretch for any team. We'll see what happens, man. I'm just interested to see, and I just hope there's not like a Kevin Love blow up. Like, knock on wood that there isn't going to be one between now and when he gracefully makes his exit from Cleveland.
Yeah. All right, Evan, let's take one more break. After the break, we're going to talk about the return of Darius Garland, just to highlight him as he returned from his 2-game absence. But first, got to everyone about our friends at BetOnline. Evan, BetOnline is the official betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, and they're back and better than ever for this season. Start of the basketball season is here, and they have a new web interface for the start of that season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. They remain the #1 spot for all basketball and football action this season. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, baseball, postseason baseball, World Series starts tonight. Go Braves, shots to bread rolling. NHL, boxing, and UFC right to your favorite Las Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage for all of the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, and that's BetOnline, where the game starts.
This episode of Locked On Cavs is also brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend up to 30%, 50%, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and their prices are reliably low and are for every customer. So if you're interested, go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box, they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Check them out today at rockauto.com.
Okay, Evan, I'm just responding to a text about blackberries. Anyway, today's show,
Like
going
the
to
phone
Garland.
or the fruit?
The fruit. That's a good shots to. I was having a conversation. Do you like blackberries?
The fruit or the phone?
The fruit. No
Both.
one cares about the phone. It's in
Dude, I would
2021.
use a blackberry. They're sick.
I thought they were cool in middle school, but I digress. Anyway,
My friend had a BlackBerry in high school until he switched over to an iPhone because it was the all touchscreen one, and he kept sitting on it and breaking the screen. He broke like 4 of them, or 3 or 4 of them, because he kept falling asleep, like taking a nap after school, and he would break them. And then eventually he got a Droid. And then this is the same friend who, when we saw Inception, he had a Zune, and we were talking about like your totem and stuff. And we're like, oh, he could just use his Zune because nobody ever has one of those things. But
sure.
yeah, that's just my one-off story for the day. But yeah, Darius Garland looked pretty dang good. Not dang good, but he looked good. Like, he looked competent out there in his return against the Nuggets. Like, a lot of players said that even JB, like, it was a huge shot in the arm for them to have them back because they view him as their floor general. And JB kind of paraphrased Kobe Altman saying, we now have 48 minutes of elite point guard play between him and Ricky on the floor at any given time.
Again,
wait
that
to
felt
see
good idea. We're waiting. I'm waiting for someone to drop us the money so we can get that off the ground.
We apologize for 48 minutes of elite podcasting, or it's
And
not a rebuild, it's a renaissance. We have like a lot
yeah,
of
or
t-shirts lined
or
up
like
here.
48 minutes of elite Lamar Stevens play. Like, there's a lot of ways we could go about this. We could give Jeff Namina a Broderick Thomas one, in memoriam.
Yeah, in loving memory of Broad Tom, and just have like one of his summer league lowlights is this picture and like drawn in like the nice homage fashion like this. But yeah, I mean, Darius was solid. I'm still waiting to see JB roll out a lineup of Darius, Isaac, either Kevin Love or Larry Markkinen, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. I think that'd be a really fun unit to play around with. But I think he made a lot of smart passes, a lot of smart reads. I think he was doing a good job of keeping Colin involved in the second half because, I mean, leading up through the first half, Colin and Darius both were dreadful. And the Nuggets were paying attention to them. Mike Malone said prior to the game, he's not too worried about the big men. He's worried about the 2 small guards. And I think those 2 were the primary focus of the Nuggets defensive efforts. And I think Darius trying to keep Colin engaged and involved, like getting him easy looks on the perimeter. Like, that's just encouraging. And yeah, just hopefully he keeps it up, man. Like, I think the Clippers and the Lakers both are going to be a tough task for him.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, you'll have some older kind of guards there. I did like that he took a couple deep threes. The one to start the game in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Interestingly, they were both like late.
Like, that was such a
Yeah. Interestingly, they were both late in quarters. I don't know if that's like just a thing, but like end of the first quarter, end of the second quarter, he took one, made the first one, missed the second one. I also loved the little kind of chemistry him and Mobley seemed to kind of get. There's that play I think in the third quarter. It's off of a live rebound. They push the ball. Mobley gets the ball at the elbow. So Garland brings the ball up. Mobley has the ball at the elbow. Garland just feeds it to him at the elbow as Mobley's kind of like not quite posting, but kind of is being guarded with some space. Michael Porter Jr. Garland just whips around him and catches the pass and scores. And it wasn't anything more complicated than that. It was just like, we're gonna move. We're gonna like try to just see if there's a space here to create something. And it was just we have these 2 guys that know what to do with the ball with their hands, and that was just kind of I think a good thing. Interesting to see him come around off some pin downs and stuff too. I was curious to see like him, like them reset with Sexton at the top of the key, Garland come around some screens and get the ball on the wing, and then like you get to make a decision from there. I think that is a really interesting thing as well. The scoring for him, I think like we're seeing like the shot profile. I haven't like gone. I'm trying to keep myself from looking at like pure shot charts yet because it's so early, and I want to just kind of like see if my brain is like my eyes are matching what it ultimately weighs out, and if I'm right or I'm trying to challenge myself in that way. But I did like that we're seeing him. I kind of feel like we're getting sort of the shot scoring profile for Garland that makes some sense. Like there's a dash of the floater, there's a dash of those little runners he likes, but it's shots at the rim and it's 3-pointers. And I'm curious to see if there's a game. Maybe it's not the Lakers, maybe it's not the Clippers, although Russ is not exactly like a good defender. So maybe he's like cooking Russ off ball coming off some of the stuff. If Russ isn't like super engaged in that end in that game, if Russ is guarding him. But I think there's just some fun stuff. And there's some fun games coming up from him too. I mean, like the Clippers game you mentioned, but like, I mean, him going against Chris Paul, him against Chris Paul, like Chris Paul is the absolute smartest point guard defender in the league, maybe of all time. And like, it'll be fun to see DG just kind of navigate that in real time.
Yeah, it will be fun. I mean, Chris Paul's nickname is also the point god, so
No, I'm not expecting him to like win that matchup. I'm just saying I think it's like fun to see
Oh
him like
no.
have to navigate. I just like when a guy is young and you think he's gonna have like a breakout year, it's fun to see them have to navigate some of these like really high profile matchups. It's just kind of fun. Like it'll be really fun when like if anytime Mobley is like playing against like Anthony Davis on Friday, like that is going to be really interesting to watch. Like anytime he's playing against, you know, like Karl Anthony Towns later in the year or something like that. Like that is really fun. Or like he gets guarded by Bam at some point. Like that'll be cool to me. Like all that stuff is just really, really fun. It's a little
Oh, it's going to be
microcosm of the bigger thing.
super cool. And speaking of Chris Paul, something I want to ask you is this was at a loss to Portland, but this was a pretty common theme at times last year with the Suns. Would you like consider it a win? Let's say because like Chris Paul, like yes, they lost to the Blazers, they got obliterated by the Blazers, but this is common where he hardly scores. He's 4 points on 2 of 5 shooting, but the biggest win is the 11 assists and the 1 steal. Would you be encouraged if Darius has nights like that? Like you're saying, like, okay, this is a good trajectory for him too, where his shot's not falling, or maybe the buckets aren't going, but he's just looking to get everyone else involved instead. I mean, obviously, that's like a no dub, or would you expect him to have more at this point? And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of gives me vibes of watching Darius play sometimes of the one Mike Brown year with Kyrie Irving, where Kyrie wasn't looking to score right away all the time. He was looking to get everybody else involved. And then Kyrie started to snowball and build momentum like late in the third, heading into the fourth. And then that's when he would take the game over. Like I'm starting to get the same vibes from Darius because he's not really looking to shoot a ton. Like you said, like they're deep in the first quarters when he took that awesome 3-pointer, like late in the second quarters when he took another one as well. Like he obviously is trying to keep himself involved and keep a rhythm, but he's looking more so to build cadence with the rest of his teammates. Like, would you be encouraged if he's playing like that too?
Yes, because particularly if like I want to see how it correlate to offensive rating. If like there's a game where like last night he had I think 7 assists against 3 turnovers. I think
Yeah.
yes, so 7 assists against 3 turnovers, took 9 shots, had 9 points. So the Cavs' offensive rating, according to Cleaning the Glass, was 106.6. That's a little below like the 50% percentile, but like for their standard, and it's below their standards for this year, but like that's a number that for them, like it's just actually like it's like 0.6 below what like league average is right now. So like you don't
Yeah.
feel super terrible about that. And like it's an early season. We'll see where the Cavs offense actually lands once we get like 20 or so games in and even 10 games in, and just kind of weigh that data a little bit with more kind of gravitas behind it. But I think it's not especially for a team that has mouths to feed, right? Like Evan, you want to get Jared Allen, like a clear part of what this team is doing is getting Jared Allen easy shots and getting him dunks and getting him finishes at the rim. They want to get Evan Mobley in shots to be successful. Colin Sexton's utility is clearly being set up to be, we're going to set you up, let you do some one-on-one cooking sometime, let you do Colin Sexton things, but we're also going to try to get you in spots where you can then score even more efficiently than you were before. And like that's the kind of role that Darius and Ricky really have on their shoulders. And if Darius is the guy playing 30 some minutes a night, he's the one having to set a lot of this up. Yeah, I think that's absolutely an acceptable thing. And I want to see if I also do want to see if we could get like a 35-point night from him at some point. I want to see if he could
Oh
have
yeah.
that kind
I
of
think
like
he's
5
capable of it.
3-pointer heavy free throw kind of night, like not quite like maybe like Ja has like a little bit of a clear path to like 40 and 10 games. Ja had that really nice 40 and 10 game the other night against the Lakers. He just kind of has that scoring role and scoring mentality that Darius is, I think, wired a little bit differently, and he just doesn't have the explosiveness to kind of go at the rim as much as Ja might. But I want to see if maybe we could get a 30 and like 8 Darius game at some point, and like what kind of context that would kind of come in. That would be really interesting.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree with that. And I think he's fully capable of doing things like that too. That's the other encouraging thing. Like you have full faith in his ability to pull off moves and the capability to just kind of take over the games like that. Like, I don't know. I think a lot of it too is like you saw like Ricky and Jarrett pointed this out the other day. The Cavs are still trying to figure out this offense. They're maybe playing one step ahead. I think some of the players are starting to settle in a little bit more, but Darius has a little bit of catching up to do because he missed 2 games with the Cavs, so like he's a little bit behind. So I think once he settles in as well and kind of finds his familiarity with his teammates and finds his cadence, I think he's fully capable of like being a 20-7 guy on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah. Also link, there's a very good thread from Steve Jones about this game. Steve Jones is probably one of the best, if not the best, kind of film follow on twitter.com. I'll link that in the show notes.
So awesome.
Yeah, his podcast, The Dunker Spot with Nekias Duncan, is also very good. So check that out. I was just flipping through this earlier this morning, so I'll link that below if you want some more stuff. And we'll be back on live stream 8:30 p.m. Tentatively is the time. We'll hop live and then we'll go for 30 minutes. We're going to just a 30-minute one, kind of contain ourselves, and then you can hear me on 92.3 again 20 minutes later if you want to hear me talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers, a professional basketball team that exists. But I'm Chris Manning. Find me on Twitter at CDMRights. Find Evan on Twitter at amnotevan. We'll be back with our live show, and then on Thursday, probably later situation like this as well, after the Cavs play the Clippers. And we'll get you through the rest of this week here, covering all things Cavs basketball. Until next time, I'm Chris. He's Evan. Have a good one.
Peace.